Julian, can you differentiate between hearing and listening?
Yes, there's a very important distinction here. Hearing is an automatic reflex. It's on all the time, actually. You're hearing even while you're asleep. If there's a strange noise in your house while you're sleeping, you'll wake up because your ears are working all the time. It's a miraculous sense, actually, the sense of hearing. There is a tiny membrane in your ear, about the size of your little fingernail, tiny, and that is vibrating thousands of times a second and decoding all of the sound around you. It could be anything from a scooter going past or somebody shouting or a dog barking to the most beautiful raga you could ever imagine. Anything and everything is decoded by this tiny little membrane. And that is extraordinary to me. It pushes fluid on the other side, which moves tiny little hairs, each of which is sensitive to a different frequency. And then those hairs cause electrical impulses to fire off in your brain. And we decode all of that as what you're listening to now. Amazing. Well, that's always on. Listening, on the other hand, is not. Listening is very different. It's a mental process. I define listening as making meaning from sound. So we do two things when we're listening. First of all, we select certain things to pay attention to. You hear everything, as I said, in a sphere around you all the time, but you're not listening to it all the time. You select certain things to listen to. Secondly, you interpret those things. You make them mean something. Your brain is always testing. Have I heard that before? Is it like something? What does it mean? Is it a threat? Is it, a possibility? Is it something I know? Is it new? Is it like something I know? All of these questions going on all the time. So you're looking for associations. The sound that will trigger you probably most will be your name. We all become very familiar with that one from a very young age. So if I'm in a cocktail event or a big room with lots of people talking and somebody behind me says, Julian, I'll turn around. I'm attuned to that. Then with that kind of meaning making comes the understanding, which is very important about listening, that every single person has a listening that is unique. Your listening is different from my listening because you're selecting different things to listen to and you're making them mean different things. Why? Because we listen through a set of filters. And those filters are really important to understand. So they include, for example, the culture that we're born into. Yours, very different from mine. The language we speak and the way we interpret. Then along the way, as we grow up, we accrete values, attitudes, beliefs from our teachers, from our parents, from role models, from friends, from anybody we choose to. You will pick some up and cast some aside. I'll do the same thing, but they won't be the same ones. So we end up with a different set of filters there. And then in the moment, we might have expectations of this conversation or intentions. We might have emotions going on. You're listening in a very different way if you've just had great news from if you've just had terrible news. So your feelings affect your listening. In fact, I think there's an inverse relationship between listening and upset. It tends to be that if somebody's very upset, the more you listen to them, the less upset they will become. And also, if we're very upset, it's hard to listen. So there's this inverse relationship. So listening is unique. And one of the most common mistakes that people make with listening, I see this all over the world all the time, is to assume everybody listens like I do. They don't. And out of that realization comes a really transformative way to understand how you speak and to speak more powerfully, which is at the core of my book and my course. That realization is that you always speak into a listening. So right now I'm speaking into your listening and also into the listening of thousands of people who may be seeing this. And all of those listenings are different. Now, doing it like this, I can't really be sensitive that I can see you. I can't see the others. So I'm trying to empathize and intuit what that listening may be. Whether you're in a one-to-one conversation or standing on a stage speaking to hundreds or thousands of people, you can ask yourself the question, what's the listening I'm speaking into? What's the listening I'm speaking into? And simply by asking that question over and over again, getting in the habit of being sensitive to it, you will become attuned to the listening. And that means you're far more likely to hit the bullseye. And if you don't ask that question, it's very easy to miss the target altogether by speaking into completely the wrong listening. So, I mean, for example, a tip when you're speaking to somebody would be always to make a little contract with them, to say, do you have 5 minutes? I'd really like you to listen to me for 5 minutes. If you then say yes, we have a deal. And I have your listening. You're giving me that gift for 5 minutes. How often do we just bomb up and say to somebody, listen, I need to talk to you. And they're doing something else or thinking about something else, or they've just had bad news or good news, or, you know, they've got to make a phone call in 2 minutes or whatever it might be. The listening is never the same. It changes through the day and it changes from person to person. Do subscribe to BNS Goku Great.